go! Ladies and gentlemen, today we're continuing the Champions League Matchday prediction series. On to Matchday 3 now. Matchday 1 I didn't do too bad, but Matchday 2 was horrendous. I'm feeling confident this one can be a bit better. But as always, let me know your predictions in the comments below for this upcoming match day. Subscribe if you're new, and don't forget to leave a like if you're enjoying this prediction series and want to see more. Before we get into the predictions though, there is a massive chance for you to fly with AC Milan on a European away day. SORARE actually giving away you guys this opportunity, plus so many other insane rewards for the European tournaments coming up. All you need to do is submit your best 5-a-side lineup for the upcoming matches this week, with 4 free common cards and 1 limited card. For example, here's what I submitted. We got Martinez in goal from Aston Villa as they're coming up against Bologna. Then there's my limited card choice Trent Alexander-Arnold as he's taking on Leipzig. Liverpool should be able to do it before Klopp helps assist Red Bull. But in the midfield, I'm picking an underrated shot from a different European tournament. Jadivec Chaden has been in great form for Anderlecht, and I think it can continue against Ludogorets. For my forward, I'm representing Milan here, as Christian Pulisic has been in insane form. And for that extra player, Victor Gyökeres' numbers speak for themselves. I think he has what it takes to add to his tally against Sturm Graz. You have till Tuesday to submit your lineup, so make sure you do so by clicking the link in my description for this unique reward SORARE are providing. There will be more opportunities later down the line, but not so much time left for this match week in particular. Anyway, let's get back into the predictions, starting off with Monaco versus Crvena Zvezda. Monaco just had to face another ex-Yugoslavian club and nearly lost there. They faced Dinamo and were trailing 2-0 at one point, but they came back with a late draw, scoring a 90th minute penalty. I was a bit surprised by the outcome, just considering that Dinamo got annihilated by Bayern Munich prior to that 9-2, and Monaco did upset Barcelona. The club's form has been quite good though, undefeated so far in Ligue 1. After that international break, they did get a goalless draw to Lille while getting a red card in the match. Meanwhile, Crvena Zvezda lost their first 2 UCL matches. First, a narrow defeat to Benfica at home, and they weren't able to redeem themselves when traveling to Milan, conceding 4 to Inter. With no surprises though, everything is going to plan in the Serbian Superliga. They are on top of the league, undefeated with 10 wins. Maybe they can squeeze through against Monaco, but unfortunately, I think they're going to get 3 for 3 losses now in the Champions League. Of course, I'm rooting for you, Crvena Zvezda, but I think Monaco will win on their own home ground 3-1. Moving on now to Milan versus Club Brugge. Milan are winless so far in the Champions League, but when you look at who they had to face so far, it's not the most surprising. No points against Liverpool or Bayer Leverkusen. There's been some inconsistent dips in the Serie A, especially at the beginning, and earlier this month they lost to Fiorentina 2-1. But other than that, the attack is looking incredible, with Christian Pulisic getting 8 direct goal contributions so far in the Serie A, along with Rafael Leao providing a lot of assists. Meanwhile, Club Brugge have 1 win and a loss in the Champions League. They initially lost to Dortmund 3-0. They put off a great fight throughout the match, but at the end could not keep up with the pace. And in their last match, they scored an early goal against SK Sturm Graz away to seal a 1-0 victory. Traveling to the San Siro will be much tougher though, and this is a must-win for Milan. Like I said, they already have 2 losses, so matches like this are must-wins for them if they want to secure any form of playoffs in the future. I think Milan are definitely capable though. I'm going for a 2-0 victory. Moving on now to Arsenal versus Shakhtar. Wow, Arsenal have had a nightmare of a weekend in the Premier League, just losing to Bournemouth 2-0 after Saliba got an early red card. That will haunt them in their next Premier League match against Liverpool, but now full focus is on the Champions League, where Saliba will be available of course since it's a different competition. But another reason why it could have been such a blowover performance recently is because Saka got injured over the international break. Kai Havertz as well. The attack is not looking as dangerous. The defense is missing some names as well with injury, but in the Champions League so far, they are undefeated. They dropped points to Atalanta at the beginning. It could have been a loss, but Raya was incredibly clutch, saving a penalty, and then they got a solid win against PSG 2-0. Shakhtar have had some slips in their domestic league, but recently have redeemed their form. Not the case for the Champions League though, recently losing to Atalanta 3-0 and a goalless draw with Bologna at the beginning. Despite Arsenal having a few signs of weakness right now, Shakhtar don't look to be the most stable club themselves. So I do think the Gunners will secure a 3-1 victory at the Emirates. Now for Juventus against Stuttgart. There's definitely a favorite on paper, but every time Stuttgart are in the equation, you can't help but feel that there might be an upset on the cards. With some insane scorelines going their way, to putting off an incredible fight against Real Madrid in the beginning, unfortunately they recently lost to Bayern after the international break ended, losing 4-0. Totally outclassed there, and in the last Champions League match against Sparta Praha, they drew. Still, watch out for the likes of Demirovic and Denis Undav in the attack. Juventus are undefeated in the Serie A, maybe getting more draws than their liking, but still. In the Champions League, they also just defeated another Bundesliga club, Leipzig, where they won in a thriller 2-3. I somehow predicted it as well. Their keeper Di Gregorio did pick up a red card there though, so he will be missing against Stuttgart. Regardless, they definitely still have decent backup options in between the sticks, and I think they have what it takes to defeat Stuttgart 4-1. Moving on to SK Sturm Graz versus Sporting. Sturm Graz just scored 5 this weekend in their derby match, and prior to the international break, they also annihilated Salzburg with the same amount of goals going their way. They are definitely in incredible form domestically, but so are Sporting. They are first in the Portuguese league with 8 for 8 wins, but in the Champions League, they were halted to PSV a bit, picking up a draw. But a matchup against Sturm Graz is the perfect opportunity for Gyökeres to add to his incredible goal-scoring tally once again. Despite Sturm Graz doing wonderfully right now, their home support might be at their absolute peak. I still think Sporting will grab a 2-0 away win. Not to mention Sturm Graz did lose their other UCL matches already, but narrowly. Moving on now to a big one, Real Madrid versus Dortmund. Dortmund putting 7 past Celtic in the last match day was simply madness. How did I have any belief in Celtic whatsoever? But after that, their inconsistency showed. Losing to Union Berlin, but then defeating St. Pauli, both finishing 2-1 opposite ways. Real Madrid desperately need to pick themselves up as they got upset to Lille on the last match day. The kings of the Champions League have slipped before when they simply shouldn't, but they have found a way to return. It will be tough though against Dortmund. Let's also not forget this was the final last season, so Dortmund can be fueled to make an impact here, getting revenge. I genuinely don't know what to say here. It is never a good idea to rule out Real Madrid, but Dortmund have shown last season and this season that you cannot disrespect them either. Even when domestically they look inconsistent, they play with a new heart on European nights. The loss to Lille was Real Madrid's only defeat so far this season though. In La Liga they are undefeated. I really would not be surprised to see Dortmund tearing it up here, really being fueled to get revenge against Real Madrid from that Champions League final, but I am going to play it safe and favor Los Blancos here to get a 2-1 victory. PSG versus PSV now. Great matchup when it comes to the names of the clubs. Like I already mentioned, PSG took a blow in the last Champions League match day, losing to the Gunners 2-0. And actually have only scored 1 goal so far in the tournament against Girona. And technically it wasn't even theirs as it was registered as an own goal in the 90th minute. So they are not in promising form on European nights. But in Ligue 1, they are top of their league undefeated, recently scoring 4 over the weekend. But when it comes to league dominance, PSV are the perfect example right now. 9 for 9 wins in the Eredivisie. Some of their matches have been a bit closer recently, like 2-1 to Alkmaar, but there's no denying their incredible form right now. When it comes to the Champions League, they got a solid point against the informed Sporting and lost to Juventus on the first match of the season. So it's been a tough schedule for them, but it's not going to be any easier. And they haven't really showed any promising signs, also translating from last season, that they really can step it up on European nights against these top clubs. Therefore, although an upset is possible, I'm going for a PSG 1-0 victory. Next up, Girona versus Slovan Bratislava. Girona have been in some unlucky form right now. In the Champions League, they nearly held off for that draw against PSG like I mentioned until scoring that own goal in the 90th minute. And then against Feyenoord, they scored 2 goals but still fall short at the end at home, as they scored 2 own goals there as well. 3 own goals in 2 Champions League fixtures so far. But against Slovan Bratislava coming up, I think it's their perfect opportunity to not score any own goals this time and only score goals going their way. Slovan Bratislava have been a punching bag so far in the Champions League, losing to Celtic 5-1 and then Manchester City 4-0. This is one of those matches where they definitely have what it takes to redeem their form, but Girona are just looking a bit more promising right now. I think Girona will win here 3-0 against Slovan Bratislava. Aston Villa versus Bologna will be interesting for sure. The Premier League club has been on an absolute rise. In the last UCL matchday, they defeated Bayern 1-0. Now in the Premier League, they picked up some questionable draws against clubs they should be beating, but their most recent match over the weekend, they beat Fulham away. They definitely cannot rule out Bologna though. In the Serie A, this club has been undefeated for nearly 2 months, picking up loads of draws along the way. But in the Champions League recently, they did lose to another Premier League club, Liverpool. This club has obviously not been as electric compared to last season with a lot of key departures along with management as well, but they have held off some interesting tactics to frustrate their opponents. I think this match will either finish in a draw or a win for Aston Villa. I am leaning towards a 1-1 draw though, despite Aston Villa being on an all-time high after defeating Bayern. Now taking a look at Atalanta versus Celtic. I think I hyped up Celtic a bit too much last week. I mean, they were doing extremely well until they had to face Dortmund. Prior to that, they were the ones annihilating in the Champions League, and in their other fixtures, it was always loads of goals. Since the Dortmund defeat though, the matches have been close. They haven't lost yet domestically, but not any high-scoring one-sided games like before. Atalanta have been very back and forth with form, but recently things have been very much going their way. In their last 3 games, we saw very convincing displays from the Europa League winners. Champions League was one-sided against Shakhtar, 5-1 to Genoa, and 2-0 to Venezia this weekend. I think they have what it takes to have another one-sided match here. I'm going for 3-0 Atalanta. I'm sorry Celtic, but I lost the dream now. Retegui has been in great form and Gasparini has been utilizing him well. Brest versus Leverkusen next. Wow, we do have one favorite on paper, but we cannot rule out this underdog. They are second place in the Champions League standings at the moment, and this is their first time playing in the tournament in their entire history. Massive achievement so far for the French club. I've ruled them out massively, but I'm very much rooting for them to continue their journey. It will be tough for them though, as all credit to them, but they did have a fairly easy schedule prior to this match. RB Salzburg has been in poor form overall, and Sturm Graz is not the biggest threat in the competition. Leverkusen definitely will be. We have to keep in mind the only times this side have lost within the past year or so were in the Europa League final and against Leipzig this season in the Bundesliga, an absolute thriller. In the Champions League, they've also only grabbed wins so far, against arguably tougher opponents. Brest's form domestically has been too back and forth for me to be convinced that they can definitely pull off a result against Leverkusen. They already have 4 losses in Ligue 1, but I do think they'll put off a good fight, so I'm going to go for a Leverkusen away win, but it finishes 2-3. Moving on to RB Leipzig versus Liverpool. Leipzig with already 2 losses in the Champions League, and it's no discredit to them, their schedule has been tough, but it's not going to get any easier. They're facing first in the Premier League at the moment. They've only lost 1 match so far in the Premier League as well, to Nottingham Forest. This weekend they just picked up a massive 3 points against Chelsea, which kept them at the top of the league. But I do want to give Leipzig all the credit. Like I said, their schedule has been tough, and their fights against Atletico Madrid and Juventus were both very close. Along with that, in the Bundesliga, they are the only team, along with Bayern Munich, which are still undefeated in the league. It will be tough for Liverpool to go away with such an intense schedule under their belt, but they are looking incredible under Arne Slot. In the Champions League as well, they haven't necessarily had easy opponents, so I'm going to say Liverpool barely win this 2-1. And now taking a look at Manchester City versus Sparta Praha. On paper, there's a clear favorite, but Sparta Praha are not to be taken lightly. They came out massive in the first match, destroying Salzburg, then picked up a draw against an informed Stuttgart. While Manchester City are missing Raji from injury, they still have been getting wins, just maybe not in the most convincing fashion. 2-1 to Wolves this weekend with John Stones scoring in stoppage time, 3-2 to Fulham as well, while Sparta Praha have suffered a narrow loss to their rival Slavia before the international break, and then narrowly beat Liberec. Of course, it's going to be a tough task to travel to the Etihad, but it might be a closer match than people think, as Sparta Praha have been undefeated in the Champions League, and they're playing some very good counter-attacking football. They might catch Manchester City off guard. I'm still going to favor Manchester City though with a convincing win. I'm going for 4-1. Moving on out to the biggest match of the week, I'd say, Barcelona versus Bayern Munich. Heavyweights on paper, of course, but both of these sides are essentially in identical form. Both winning by 4 goals over the weekend recently, both getting a high scoreline going their way in the Champions League, but also each suffering an upset in the competition many did not expect. Both of their attacking sets are looking absolutely dangerous right now. And we do know Bayern has some incredible recent history against Barcelona. But things can change here, as Hansi Flick, the manager who led Bayern to that famous 8-2 victory, is now with Barcelona. He would know how to work around this incredible Bayern side better than most managers. And with the performances he's been guiding his side to now, there's no reason why Barcelona should not believe. Played at home for them as well. I truly think any outcome is possible here. Of course, many will say it's just in the history of Bayern Munich to win in a head-to-head fixture like this, in recent history at least, apart from 2015. But this Barcelona side are simply different now. I'm gonna have to be a bit underwhelming in this video though and go for a draw, but I do think both sides will have an incredible attacking display, so I'll say it's a high-scoring one, 2-2. We'll see, no matter what, it should be an incredible match. But moving on now to Atletico Madrid versus Lille. Lille already upset one Madrid club last match day. Can they do it once again? Definitely possible, with Atletico having a horrific display then, losing to Benfica 4-0, completely collapsing in Lisbon. It definitely was not an expected scoreline though, as in La Liga they're undefeated with 5 wins and 5 draws. But after Lille beat Real Madrid, they haven't slowed down. A draw to Monaco over the weekend is alright considering they've been in solid form and undefeated. For me, this matchup will either finish in a draw or Atletico Madrid just scraping through. I will say the Spanish club do pull through this time around though, as they know how essential it is to win a matchup like this after collapsing last match day. They need to return to form in this competition, so I'm saying they just scrape through, like I said, 1-0. Moving on to RB Salzburg versus Dinamo Zagreb. Both of these clubs have been very disappointing so far. My club Dinamo lost to Bayern 9-2 on their opening match, the first time any team conceded 9 goals in a single UCL match. They picked themselves up slightly against Monaco, blowing their 2-0 lead, but still picking up a point at the end in the most beautiful stadium of all of Europe, Maximir. But Salzburg have been crushed in both of their Champions League fixtures, 3-0 to Sparta Praha, and then 4-0 to Brest. Those type of opponents should not be underestimated, of course, but you would expect Salzburg to put up a much closer fight than that. Like I also mentioned earlier, they lost 5-0 to Sturm Graz domestically, but did pick themselves up a bit over the weekend with a 2-1 victory. In this matchup, anything's possible though, as Dinamo themselves were not that convincing this weekend. Another 2-2 draw, dropping points in the Croatian league. Anything's possible here, but since Salzburg have been arguably worse in the UCL since they lost heavily in both matches, I will be hopeful for Dinamo at least once. I'm going to give them a 2-0 victory away. Next up, Benfica versus Feyenoord. Oh man, Benfica have been next level. Destroying Atletico Madrid, like I said, 4-0. Undefeated so far in the UCL. Looks like they've regained their European form, as last season they were very disappointing. Who's been the unexpected hero for them though? The Turkish forward Aturkoglu, getting many direct goal contributions this season. In all of September and October so far, they scored 2 goals minimum in all their matches, and of course won each one. Feyenoord recently have been scoring loads as well, but in their first Champions League match they got outclassed by Leverkusen, losing to them 4-0. They came back against Girona narrowly, and also over the weekend scored 5 against Go Ahead Eagles. This one should be an exciting fixture, but with Benfica at home, and with them in more convincing form at the moment, I'm going for them winning 2-0. Benfica seem to be truly back, but watch me jinx this club again. And the final match we're looking at is Young Boys versus Inter. Inter undefeated so far in the UCL, starting off with one of the toughest matches possible. They drew to City and then destroyed Crvena Zvezda 4-0. The only loss this season overall was to Milan, and have had a lot of narrow results in the Serie A, including this weekend where they defeated Roma 1-0. Young Boys on the other hand have been tortured in this competition so far. 3-0 to Aston Villa, then 5-0 to Barcelona. Will it continue to get worse for them against another tough opponent? I think so. Their form domestically has also not been too bright, so I'm saying Inter win this match 4-0. Yeah, those are all of my Champions League predictions for Matchday 3. Let me know your thoughts as always, like I said, in the comments below, and don't forget to submit your team onto SORARE as well, using the link in my description. I'll see you all very, very soon. Take care. Laco Noite.